Hey, g'day people, it's Matt here from Matt Carves. Today we're going to have a look at wood dyes, spirit-based wood dyes, and what I use them for. I'm not an expert on them, but I use them a lot on my carvings, and I'm going to show you how I use them and why I use them. Okay, so this is the wood dye that I use. It is a spirit-based wood dye from Wax. Now, I'm not promoting this brand at all because it's just the brand I can find in my local hardware store, and it's just easy for me to access, and I'm not even sure if you can get this one overseas or not. And also because it's spirit based, I'm not really sure on how they would sort of send it to you via Amazon or whatever, because it's like a flammable liquid, so I'm not really sure on those kind of shipping things, so I'm probably not going to leave any sort of like links to any of these. It's just really information today on how I use these wood dyes on my works. And what I tend to do is, because I carve a lot in very sort of light colored woods, you can sort of see it here, I carve in that wood there, but I really like the dark woods, and so I used a mahogany stain on that. That's what's sort of like, oh, not a stain, a dye. Sorry, I used a mahogany dye on this one, so you can sort of see there it's sort of like really coloured the wood there, so you get that nice two-tone kind of thing happening. Now the difference actually between a wood dye and a wood stain is quite simple. The particles in a wood stain is larger than in a wood dye. Now, how this affects it is the stain, essentially because the particles are bigger, will sit on top of the wood, whereas in a wood dye, they will penetrate deeper into the wood. So that's pretty much essentially the difference between a stain and a wood dye. There are sort of like other differences as well. Now, you can get water-based wood dyes as well, and they're probably less toxic than these spirit-based ones, so check that out. But I'm just going to show you how I use these today, and what's quite cool about them, you can actually see on here, this is an oak. Now I put a blue color on this, and you can sort of see it sort of has let the rays come through, so it has that unique quality where you can really put it on woods and it'll penetrate into the wood and it won't cover up the grain. Now there's always an exception to the rule, so in some circumstances a stain will probably bring out the grain more than a wood dye, but it's all trial and error when it comes to these kind of finishing products. Okay, so the first thing that I tend to do is I'll put some paper towels down. Now with brushes, I tend to apply it with brushes. You kind of want to use one brush for one color because they kind of mix over. I can use sort of like the browner kind of dyes, the same brush with all the different ones, and you can actually wash it out with methylated spirits, I believe. What do you think? I think the big one should be red. We'll make maybe that one blue, and this one we'll choose sort of like a brownish color for that one. Get rid of those two. So we'll do this blue first. Now I always do sort of like a test on it. Wear gloves definitely, because this stuff, if it gets on you, it's hard to come off. It goes a long way too, and so you can actually dilute it. Now you're supposed to be wearing a mask with this, sort of like a, I'll just show you on the bottom of this. So it kind of looks a little bit dark there. What you can do is you can dilute it. So I have pre-mixed some diluted stuff. So that is the straight, which is often quite dark. And so what I do is I just have like a jar and I'll keep it, and that's the blue, and I diluted it with methylated spirits. And so let's wash my brush a little bit so it gets rid of the... Okay, so here we go. So you can't really tell that it's lighter, but you can I can sort of see it there. So we'll put that blue on and we'll see how that goes. Now it takes about half an hour to dry, and It doesn't have the protective qualities of a stain because it's sort of being absorbed into the wood. So just be aware of that. But the thing is that once it's dry, you can actually apply like varnishes or whatever you want over the top. So I often do a wax over the top of my dyed kind of things. Everyone sort of has their preferences for how they finish their carvings. Now I quite like leaving, I don't tend to put any kind of protective coats on my outdoor works because I kind of like the fact that it kind of ages. And I'll show you a cool little crocodile that I did a while ago. And it's just turned out really well, and it's kind of aging really nicely as well. I should have a bigger brush, I know. Now, of course, like this is going to look different on all kinds of woods. This is a cedar that I'm doing this on. Just trying to get quite even throughout. And what I tend to do is, I tend to always do this, is I will sand it after it's dried. So I've done that one. Now you can see on my gloves it's everywhere, so yeah, make sure you wear gloves because it's not good for your hands either. And what I probably wouldn't do is I probably wouldn't use it on anything that you're going to wear against things like a pendant or something like that, because it's probably going to come off a little bit, so just be aware of that. Really good for carvings though. You can use lighter coloured dyes as well. So this is, you can sort of see the dye here. Now I think this one was light oak. Well, no, it was antique pine. So you can sort of see that one. So a lot of the time I'm carving in a wood called macrocarpa that is quite kind of light. And so I like to darken it up a little bit. And what I did is I put that all over, and then I went over with a bit of sandpaper just to bring out those kind of highlights there. Yeah, scary looking dude, man. Okay, so once that has dried, then you can sort of like sandpaper it off, and this brings out, once it makes it a little bit lighter in places, and you can sort of like bring out highlights on the nose and all that kind of stuff. Gotta be careful though, because like once you've used this sandpaper for this, you can't really use it for anything else. So we've kind of finished that one. Now, if you were to put like a wax or something on it, that would go dark again. Like, you know, you put anything wetter on wood, it's going to go dark again. So I tend to like these kind of objects, just so like leaving them. You know, I do put wax on things, like I did it with this one. This is one that I did a long time ago. So I put it like I think that was a mahogany wood dye on, and then I went over with a mahogany wax. Where is the wax? I'll just show you the wax. So I used a Liberon polish, and that is Georgian mahogany. So I've watered down some red. I'll just see what that's going to look like. A real kind of like watered down one. Yeah, so I'm going to go with that actually. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. Now I did the last little one in I think it's an antique pine, so it's a little bit darker, but really liking the look of those. So if you could hit that like, that would be awesome. Here's another one that I did, blue with a little bit of yellow, a bit of green there, and also did this wizard as well a long time ago, and it's still holding up outside. And that's about it from me, so I'll see you in the next video. Bye everybody.